Welcome to MetalNet TV. My name is Sarah, and today we're talking to Blazy Flash of Beyond Frequencies. Here we go.
For having me today.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. I love your music, and I'm excited to get to know more about you because you're new to me. I think we sort of found each other somehow a couple years ago, and I think I've been able to sort of see what you're up to. But today I'm really looking forward to like really getting to know the artist behind the music. So welcome.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're very welcome. So, let's just start with this. Let me just mention to the audience, you recently released a single called Feel.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool song, and you have a video as well. Can you just tell me a little bit about the song?
Oh, Feel is one of the heavier songs that we have from Beyond Frequencies. And it expresses a lot of heaviness and power, but at the same time, some fragility. And I think that the song brings it along pretty well.
I would agree. I think it's a wonderful song. And I think there's a lot of, I find that the songs that really spoke to me that I've looked at throughout your career in the last few years really have that wonderful balance of like power, but also like willingness to be kind of honest about, things aren't always perfect and everything isn't shiny. And just because you're feeling strong and certain about something doesn't necessarily mean that it's like that maybe you don't have doubts or that something hasn't gone wrong along the way. And I really love that very honest kind of singing storytelling and lyrics. So we can understand your music and your band a little better. I always love to get to know the musician and what inspired them. So what inspired you to want to play music, and what were your earlier like experiences with music when you were very young?
Oh my God. So that's kind of a long time ago when I was young. So I try to remember. No, actually, that's a question that musicians get asked a lot, and I really don't remember. Somehow for me, it was like music was always there and was always like my one big love and passion. So I don't have this particular moment where it hooked me. I don't know. But what I remember is that from a very early age on, I actually started as a guitarist. So I
Oh,
started to play guitar and later the piano. And it was actually until my teenager years until I started with singing more. But there is not such a particular moment where it hooked me. It's been there, I guess, from birth somehow.
yeah. Did your parents listen to music a lot around the house?
No, not at all. Well, they listen to music. Yes, they listen to music, but I'm the only person in the whole family who has some kind of relationship with music. So,
Oh, really? That's so
yeah.
interesting. That's so interesting. Do you remember what some of the artists were that you listened to in your sort of younger days?
Yes, I do. I have an older brother, and actually, I was influenced by his taste of music a lot. So, I started off with Depeche Mode, which is until today one of my favorite bands. And in the early years, I was more into pop music. So, a huge Norwegian band, Aha, maybe you remember them.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I love them. And then later, I'm a kid of the 90s. So then Pearl Jam came along, Nirvana. I fell in love with Korn. So those were my strongest influences, I guess.
Oh, that's very cool. So you said you started as guitar. Were you very young when you picked up that instrument?
8 years old or something, 7, 8, 9. I don't remember that. Yeah, I think 8 years old.
Did you ask for the guitar or did your parents gift it to you?
Um, well, no, I think I chose it. I chose the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it that, did you make a connection like I want to listen to Depeche Mode or Aha? Or were you just like, it's cool. I just want a guitar.
I think it was more about the teacher, the guitar teacher at the school. That there was a colleague of mine, or like someone in my class, who was already taking guitar lessons, and he was so, I don't know, he liked that teacher so much, and that's why I felt like I want to look into that instrument as well. And I really had a really, really nice teacher. So, yeah, he made falling in love with music even easier.
Oh, that's amazing. And were you disciplined? Like, did you enjoy the lessons? Did you enjoy the teacher? And did you practice regularly, or did that take a while?
Well, in waves, in waves. No, I think I was disciplined in phases, but not all the time. But later, when I really discovered my passion for music and I want to have a deeper look into music and really learn this art, then I was super disciplined. I mean, to this day, I am very disciplined when it comes to my instrument, which is now my voice, but then it was the guitar and the piano. Well, piano, there my motivation lacks a little bit, to be honest. But
I
no passion.
imagine I imagine you can play well enough to help yourself write songs.
Yes, exactly. But that's actually the limit.
Okay, that sounds like a good limit. You've got a
Good
lot of
enough.
tools. You've got a lot of tools to play with.
Yeah.
So I know you as a songwriter as well.
Yeah.
And did that start for you early, or did the, let's say, evolution of becoming a songwriter, did that start early or did that come to you later on?
Very late. Very late.
Oh,
I wrote
okay.
my first song with 27. So
Okay.
yeah, the first song that I wrote was with 27, and it's called Don't Tell the Truth. It's actually on the album from my first band
Mhm.
that I had back then. No, the thing is not to go into this story too much, but I did not have really the support from my family that I should go into music. So there was a lot of barriers and hurdles that I had to overcome. So therefore, I was an adult already when I decided, no, this is my passion. I really want to go into music. And I was over 25 then already, or 26. And then I also started to do like the voice lessons and everything, like to really train my voice. But the songwriting was pretty late. So with 27, I started to look into that. Yeah.
And for songwriting, when you started doing it, did you just put pen to paper and just start writing? Or are you a person who sort of thinks things through and studies things before you start approaching it?
Pen to paper. So in my case, all the songs start with the lyrics. So I know the musicians are different in this way. So everyone has their own songwriting style. Most of the people I know, they start with melodies first, with a hook. For me, it's always lyrics first. So what I did pretty early, also in my teenager years already, I did journaling a lot, and also with songwriting, I never sit down and go like, okay, now I need to write a song. It's more that there are some phrases or some thoughts that catches my attention, and then I write them down. And I actually do still have a book where I write down like phrases, maybe even only words. And then at some point, if my thoughts or like the things that I write down revolves around the same topic for a longer period, then that's the moment when I realize, okay, now I need to write a song about this topic. So that's how it goes in my case, but I know it's very different for all the musicians. So
Yeah, you could hear 100 different stories about
yes, yeah,
approach. It's always interesting to hear. So once you sit down, and I think you may have alluded to this, once you do decide you have all these different parts and you're ready to tackle it,
yeah.
then are you the type of person who's like, let me just sit and write a first draft of this song, or do you just work on it as long as it speaks to you, and then if the inspiration goes away, you just get up and worry about it when the inspiration comes back again?
It's a combination. In the beginning, it was the latter. So then it was like, okay, then I would sit down as long as I felt it, and then I would just let it go if I didn't feel any more like doing it. These days is a little bit different. So if I mean, for example, for 2025, I planning to go to the studio, and I don't have all the songs together already. So in my calendar, I do have some blocks where I know, okay, there I will focus on the songwriting. Well, if it then in the end I don't end up with a result that I am happy about, then I will, skip the studio sessions. But somehow I also need the pressure of time to get some results. So I'm human as everyone else, I guess.
Yeah, I would imagine that I feel like every band has a story of like the best song on the album wasn't even written until we got to the studio and we just needed that one more song. Like I think that pressure exists for everybody in some way, shape, or form.
I think so. Well, in my case, it never has been like that. It's always like the best song was ones that started the album songwriting process.
Okay.
So yeah. So in for the last album or the upcoming album, for example, it was Eye of the Storm. So that was one of the first ones that I was sure, okay, the album is going to revolve around this song, and actually feel, even though the album is not out yet, but actually feel is like the end of the story of the whole album. So they relate in my case, so I don't write songs single from each other. So somehow they stick together. So yeah.
Yes. And I felt that because I've listened to all the albums you put out with Beyond Frequencies, which there were 2 albums and 1 EP, and then a third album coming out in mid-February.
Yes, 20th of February,
20th.
2025. I'm looking forward to it.
That's amazing. And so did you just mention that there might be a little bit more songwriting to be done for that album?
The third album is ready,
That's
ready.
done. Okay, I figured as much.
I
I
know.
figured as
I'm
much.
already talking about the fourth album, so I'm
Nice.
far.
And I should just mention while we're here, and please correct me if I mispronounce the name of any of the albums. Not that they should be hard for me to pronounce, but the first album is Megalomania. The
Yeah.
second is Me Megalomania. Awesome.
Megalomaniac. Yeah.
And then the EP is Eye of the Storm. And then I believe you told me before we started this interview that Eye of the Storm builds into the album that we're looking forward to seeing in February 2025, correct? Awesome.
And the album will be called Everything I Am.
Awesome. So February 20th, 2025, which is right around the corner. Which, by the way, we are recording this a few weeks before it comes out. Hence my do you still have a song that needs to be written question. Okay, so a few more questions about songwriting. For you personally, are you somebody who writes more from an autobiographical standpoint, like personal feelings that you're going through? Is it more just sort of biographical, like feelings that people could experience, not necessarily yourself? Or is it like more storytelling, fictional, things that are of interest to you? Where are you usually motivated from?
It's not fictional. That's this I can exclude. But I've read somewhere that also people who write books, they start off their first book very autobiography, and then when they evolve in their artistry, they become more like observers of the society and then write stories about that. And for me, actually, it is exactly the same with the songwriting. So like with my former band that I had, like the first songs I did were very autobiography. So very stuff that I personally went through, lived through, experienced. And now actually it shifted. So it is always a story that I observed in my life.
Mhm.
Either it was myself, sometimes it's stuff that I uplift myself, but very often it's also stuff that I just observe with my friends or family or people that I know. So yeah, it's a combination of, but it's never fictional.
So it's always coming from an honest place
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
something that somebody experienced somewhere. Um, and I imagine, is that easier to sing for you when you're on stage or in the studio because it does come from a genuine place of something you experienced or somebody maybe you care about or witnessed, experienced?
Um, well, I think it's easier. Well, for me, it's easier, but I think that depends on person to person. And for me, somehow also, once the song is recorded, so the studio work is done, somehow this song gets a life of its own. And then on stage, I actually don't have the same feelings that I have in the studio, I have to admit. So it's a bit different singing those songs on stage than in the studio. But at the studio, it's super raw, like super,
Mm,
super raw. And then sometimes I also struggle, I have to be honest. But afterwards, once it's recorded, it's more like a storytelling. Like really, then I tell the story more on stage. Yes. So
that's good.
it evolved.
So you were in Switzerland, right? You were raised in Switzerland. Um, but clearly we're doing this interview in English, so I'm going to assume you're multilingual. What languages do you speak?
Well, I was a good student, so English I learned at school. But my mother is Norwegian, so I speak a little Norwegian. My dad is from Germany, so I speak German. And you cannot know, but Swiss German is a dialect actually. So German and Swiss German, two different
Okay.
languages. I speak them both. A little bit of French, a little bit of Italian, a little bit of Spanish, but yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So what
Many
made you
languages.
decide what made you decide to sing in English? Because everything I've heard you do has been in English. I haven't heard you sing in any other language.
Yeah, lucky you. Well, difficult question. I've get asked this a lot, especially because some people would really like to hear me sing in Swiss German. Maybe this happens sometime, but not that soon. I think there are two reasons. One reason is like the artists that I listened to when I was younger, or when I was young, all in English. So I talked about Depeche Mode, Korn, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. It's all English, and I was super nerdy about their lyrics, by the way. So also a way how I learned English myself. Well, that's one part of it, why English. And the second thing is that, as I mentioned, my mother is Norwegian, my dad German. When they met, my mom did not speak yet German. Today she's fluent, but back then she wasn't. So my parents used to speak English with each other when I grew up. So somehow I had this language in my youth, even though
Yes.
they did not speak grammatically correct, but somehow
Right.
it was in my upbringing, very, yeah,
So it was
dominant.
still organic to you at home. Did they speak English to you guys, or by the time you came
No,
along,
no, no,
what
no.
what
So
language
it,
did they speak to you?
well, her German, High German, they still do. In school, I was then confronted with Swiss German, and my mom, she used to speak a little Norwegian when I was a child. So
Oh,
yeah.
you really got to hear everything.
Yes.
So obviously English language music was a big part of your life. Were you also exposed to British and American and maybe Australian like television shows and movies?
Well, yes and no. I mean, MTV was big in my youth, of course, and then it was the UK version. Well, and no, it's more about the artists actually. And what comes on top is I read a lot. So, and with literature, I always try to read it in the original language, and I read a lot of English books. So somehow, yeah, that's how I learned the language.
'Cause I think it is really amazing when artists choose English. It's not their first language, and yet you're writing delicate, thoughtful, powerful lyrics in a language that isn't your own. But clearly you've had maybe some advantages over others because you've heard it your whole life and the music that you like nerdily studied your
I
entire
really know
life.
studied. So
I do love your lyrics. In fact, I'm gonna just maybe jump ahead to where I intended to speak about this. You have a song from about 2 years ago, and I believe it's your first ballad. It's noted that way, and I think it's the first that I noticed as well. And it's basically about a song. It's like a journey of a song from starts with a tiny girl and ends up being a middle-aged woman. And I'm gonna read them. Hopefully I won't like butcher
uh,
them in my
you're
reading.
talking about Under My Skin.
Under My Skin is a song. Yep.
Yeah.
So take a look in the mirror. All I see is a lady middle-aged smiling back at me. And this woman at this point still has fantasies and dreams. Like these have not been given up from when she was a tiny little girl feeling that excitement. And then, but then it goes on to say, have I wasted half my life? Am I running out of time to be who I want to be, to leave my legacy? Um, I won't put my dreams on hold just because I'm getting old. So that to me, I think that's very relatable to the human experience. I think everybody hits a point in their life, and it's probably a different point for everybody. Some people, I think it's that quarter life crisis moment where they're about to turn 30 and they didn't achieve everything that they thought they were meant to achieve in life by the time they're 30. And for other people, I think it's more of the typical, what we call midlife crisis. I don't know if you have, or you probably have various words for that in various languages. Um, I wondered, is this a song that you can relate to? Did it come from like a personal place? Were you seeing friends going through this, or was it just like everybody in your world all of a sudden was feeling this way because they looked in the mirror and went, wait a second, what happened? I used to be five.
Yeah, what happened? What happened actually? Where did the time go? No, this is a very personal song, and it actually has to do a lot with my music career.
Hmm.
So I was a musician before, let's like before and after what was in the middle. I stopped at some point with my music career. I quit the music career and I chose to come back when I was already over 40.
Hmm.
And it's about two things. So I started to talk with my family and my friends about my plans. That hey, listen, I need to come back. I need to write music again. I want to produce. I want to release new stuff. And they were all like, you are too old for that. I mean, it's like, are you crazy? And you also need to know that when I quit my last band, so when I quit the music industry, it was back then my label actually told me, now you are over 30, you did not have your breakthrough yet. You
Mhm.
are too old for the industry. So that's also the reason why I quit back then. So, and then in between were 7 years where I tried to, or I actually had like a normal career or whatever normal is.
Mhm.
And still there was a part missing, you know, there's like something like the thing that I believe that I'm here in this world, that I'm supposed to do, I did not do. And so it's very autobiographic, this song, that I realized, hey, yeah. And also, um, you know, I was angry with myself actually that I gave back up that I gave up back then, you
Right.
know. So I was angry with myself and just like, okay, did I waste half of my life? You know, did I waste the time that I had? Did I waste my youth to be a musician and to leave my legacy? So it's both. And the second thing that I really want to stress is when you talk to people in my age, I'm 46 for those who don't know, um, there are many dreams out there that are not lived, you know? And I hear this excuse all the time. I'm too old for it. And I don't get it. I don't get this excuse. So that's the second part of that song. So for everyone out there, you're never too old to start anything and to live your dream. If you feel like that's something that makes you happy and that drives you, go for it. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And I think that's why it would speak to so many people. I think it
I
speaks
think.
to everybody who they either say, yep, that's right, I'm that person that didn't give up on it, or oh my God, I was that person that gave up. Why did I give up? And
And
should I have? And should I have?
to have age as an excuse is the
Yes.
lamest thing ever.
Well,
Really.
and you were literally a baby. Like you're 46, I'm 50. And now we think about 30 and we're like, oh my God, like I was a
Oh, yeah.
child.
What are you talking about?
And I have a bunch of 30-year-old friends and they're totally going through their quarter life crisis,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
They are so depressed. And it's funny because you want to be supportive because you've been, maybe we've all been there in some way, shape, or form. But at the same time, you kind of want to shake them and be like, are you kidding? Like, you're only 30. Like, you're not supposed to accomplish everything.
yeah, but you know, I mean, even in our age, we are still babies. I mean, I talk to
Absolutely.
my parents a lot, and they shake me sometimes. You know, it's like you're so young, and I feel like no, I'm so old. So it's always a question of perspective, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I feel like in your case it was the pressures of society. I think sometimes when I hear stories similar to yours, it's usually the pressure of the wallet of, oh my God, like how am can I really pay my bills in the next decade or two or three? And I think that's what makes people go straight to their, 9 to 5 existence. Did that play a little? I mean, you were still quite young at that point. But did that play any effect, or did that have any effect on your decision?
Oh, the biggest one. I mean, I'm still struggle with that, to be super, super honest.
Yeah,
Yes, it hurts your wallet if you change your career, especially if you go into art. I mean, music is really not the easiest art to make a living out of it. I'm still not making a living out of it, so just to be clear. No, this plays a huge role, and of course, this is a huge obstacle. But in the end, I mean, especially, well, I can only talk for myself. I mean, I am so privileged that I live in Switzerland, you know. So we do have possibilities, but still living is super expensive,
right,
especially in a place like Switzerland. And yes, a lot of sacrifices. I still sacrifice a lot, really. I mean, and yes, that's a choice, but still not an excuse.
right. But a choice that makes you happy, right? Just
It does, it makes me happy, but on the other hand, I have to tell you that sometimes, like my financial struggles, or like, you know, always living on the edge, it is tiresome,
yeah,
really. So you need to have a strong character to pull through. You need to
yeah.
have.
I
So
I would imagine. Trust me, I understand what you're saying. I really do. So you've told us like what kind of made you give up on these things. So there's this in between moment. You said it was about 7 years.
yeah,
About 7 years. So in
more.
that time, because it was sort of like labels and probably people in your life and that, were you still writing music? Were you still singing like for pleasure? Like did you give it up and just like, put it on a shelf? Was it like, oh, it's too painful to even write songs and sings? Or were you like, nope, this gives me pleasure, so I'm gonna do it for myself?
Well, this pleasure doing it for myself did not work with me, not at all,
No.
especially with singing. I mean, I practice 3 hours to 4 hours every day. And once I stopped back then, I did not practice, of course not. I just, like, I'm done with it. And then I heard it from famous tennis players, by the way, the same story that once you pick it up again, you're not at the same level as you were before. So you watch yourself getting worse. And this is so painful.
Mhm.
So I stopped. And singing for pleasure was not a pleasure anymore, not at all. But the songwriting, I did not stop. So
Oh,
I did write a lot of songs in these 7 years, a lot of lyrics as well. So not only like full songs, but a lot of lyrics and songs. And once I decided to come back again, I really had to get into my voice again. So like to train again and get to a level where I had the feeling I'm ready to go to the studio again. So yeah, so no, for me, it was not a pleasure thing. I actually really gave up on singing
gave it
completely.
up.
Yeah.
Did you have other creative outlets during that time, or were you really just like writing novels or something else?
Creative outlets? No, I actually, well, there's something that one needs to know about me. I'm kind of a workaholic. It doesn't matter whether it is like in creativity or like in business or whatever. I'm really a workaholic. I don't know why. So I'm born with it. So my outlet in these 7 years where I was pursuing like a conventional career, and
Yes.
I actually did pretty good in hindsight. So yeah, that's where
So you just threw yourself into that.
yes, into the next project. So like go there, but until I realized that there is nothing about my personality living in this job. So yeah, but that's a long story.
No, but I think it really I think it's like I said, very relatable, and I think it really shows who you are and what you had to overcome to come back to music. What
Yeah.
made you when did you start thinking, you know what, this is ridiculous. I really just need to play music and I don't care what anybody says.
Hey, this is, I mean, kind of embarrassing. No, it's but funny or interesting as well. So in these 7 years, I really pursued a career. I was like, okay, if I'm not making the music, I'm going to be a businesswoman and I will show everyone that I am capable of, I don't know what silly thoughts, I don't know. But I've always been a nerd, so I've always studied a lot. To this day, I'm super nerdy. When I'm interested in something, I really go and deep dive in this stuff. So, and back then I did like a management education, and within this management education, you get like a a personal development part where they train you on your leadership skills and blah blah blah. I tell you, but interesting. And interestingly enough, they also go for your weaknesses and your strengths, of course, and of your passion. What drives you? And I spent a shitload money on this education. And it instead of becoming a business super duper manager, I was like, well, my strength is songwriting and singing
Right.
and touching.
Songwriting, music,
Okay.
performing.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I paid the bill for this education. I did my degree, by the way. I did it. And then I was like, okay, yeah, but now I'm off to music again.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's my story.
So you just in doing all that, you were like, "Yep, I was doing the right thing in the beginning, and then I got off course, and now I have to get back on again." And then you went through that pain of like having to get everything back up and running, your voice and all that you just shared with us. The
It
emotional
not
pain, I should say.
it's like that phase was actually not so painful, not at all, because it's like if you are a startup, it's the same thing. If you're starting a business, if you start something new in the beginning, your motivation is so high, your energy is so high. So in the beginning, it wasn't painful at all. So like the first year or first 2 years, it was like, yeah, come on, bring it on. And then when the energy starts to drop after some while, then like, ooh, I need a break, I guess.
Yeah. I'm a big believer of everything that you learn can be translated into the thing that you're passionate about. Like there's something to be pulled. I imagine that all those degrees, aside from just realizing what you already knew, which is I should be playing music, regardless of whether it pays my bills or not.
Mhm.
Were there other things that you picked? Because I mean, these days, like you had a label before, so they probably handled certain things. But these days, I feel like a lot of musicians, you kind of have to handle everything. You're pretty much everything yourself. I would imagine that what you did in those 7 years and everything that you learned in that degree is gotta come in handy. And you're already organized, right? And you're already kind of nerdy and organized. So I would imagine that that helps you with like your Instagram or your YouTube or what have you. Did you find that to be true?
Absolutely, 100%. So I think like, I mean, just because I had a break from music, it did not hurt me because I learned so much. From business side, from marketing side and everything. And as you said, like these days, I don't have a label. I don't have a management, still not. I'm actually looking for one. So if anyone is out there, um, yeah, so yes, it helps a lot. And also what I did in these 7 years, I worked a lot with managers actually, and also about their struggles. I mentioned startups before. There is a reason because I worked with startups. And they go through the same pain, you know. Also, the lyrics of my music is often related to startup, to entrepreneurs. Like, okay, can I pull that through? Their self-doubts, their like all the, you know, the ups and downs you go through. That's very emotional. And yes, of course, I live from every moment and every situations that I learn from.
Yeah. So when you came back, was your first band was your first band the Faunaflakes?
Oh no, plagues, yes.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about Faunaflakes musically, lyrically, and what did it do for you when you came back to playing music?
Oh, when I came back, what it did for me?
Yeah, like well, when you started that band, really?
No, I mean Funnel Flakes. I loved it. Really, I loved that time so much. That was more like we were a group of musicians or then who became friends, and that was a typical garage band, you know, where we wrote all the songs together. We were touring together. I mean, we played the Burning Man 3 times. Uh,
Nice.
we toured. I mean, for a European band to tour the US, and we toured Mexico, stuff like that. That's just like, you know, I will talk about that when I'm old still about this time. But that was a really cool time. Um, but did not have much to do actually with when I came back with Beyond Frequencies.
Okay.
Besides, the bassist was the same guy. So I took the bassist from back then. He started with me in Beyond Frequencies as well.
So it's really beyond frequencies. This is like your baby and where you're getting taking your power back and saying, Blazy Flash is back.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing. So tell me about that. What was like what inspired you to start Beyond Frequencies? What were your hopes for this band? And musically, how is it similar or different from the garage band that we just talked about?
Musically, it's more my music taste than it was before. So before it was more like four people writing the songs together, and now it's. I mean, I still write with two producers, so it's not the songs are not written completely by myself, but like the initiative or the beginning and also the idea or the let's say the mood board of the songs are now 100% my music taste. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest difference, I'd say. And with Beyond Frequencies in the beginning, I actually did not plan to write the songs by myself or to start on my own. In the beginning, I was actually looking for musicians first who would like to have the same band construct again. But funnily, I did not find the people who wanted to work with me. And at some point, then I just decided, well, then I do it by myself. And later, the musicians, then now it's the other way around. Now musicians approach me and they're, oh, if you're ever looking for bassist or guitar player, then or do you want to write songs with me? So yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And how
it.
does it feel? It must feel a bit different when you're all in. Like, were there four of you in the old band?
Yes.
There were four. So four of you are kind of coming in and writing songs, and I don't know if all four of you ever wrote a song or if it was just little break off groups. And then now where you're the lead, you're the lead on the songs, but you are still writing with these two producers. Must feel very different, and I would imagine a little bit more emotionally connected to the songs.
Yes, but I was always emotionally connected to the other
Yeah.
songs as well because the moment when you work on something, it somehow becomes yours. So I was always emotionally connected. But these days, I mean, like Beyond Frequencies is so much more professional than the old band used to be. It's so much. I'd say we go more into the details. It's like the song is never finished, and you go into the details, and we put more layers on it, and also to get the perspective of these two producers, they have a complete different look at the song as if it comes from a band. You know, when it comes out from a band, then you are already so much in the song that you cannot have an objective view about
Mhm.
it. And in this case, I come with a demo and show it to the producers, and they have a complete fresh ear, you know,
Yeah.
and then have a complete different way on how to tackle this song and how to work on it. So it's so much more into details, and it's richer. It's somehow, it has more richness to it. Yeah.
So you come in with the demo, and then do they come in and produce the song, or do they come in as writers and work with you to finish the song?
They work with me to finish the song. So
Perfect.
it's more like, just imagine that I have mostly I write it on a keyboard, or so I have like an acoustic version of this song, but this sounds more like Nora Jones. And then just like I have some imagination how the song should sound like. So I do have some ideas, but in the end, the arrangement is done by the producers. So they come in with the beat, with the riffs, with everything, with the heavy sound, you know. And yeah, so I'd say they play a huge part in the sound of Beyond Frequencies, definitely.
And has this been the relationship on all of the albums and the EP? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it feels like something you're happy with and you want to continue with.
Oh, very, very happy. Especially I have to mention Christoph Simons. He used to be the guitar player and producer of Crypteria. And I found him through a friend of mine who produced a song with him. So, you know, like how it goes. And when I looked into his work, what he'd done before, and I contacted him coldly, you know, just like
Yeah.
out of the cold, would you be interested to work with me? I actually did not expect him to say yes.
Okay.
And then he was like, yeah, I'm open to it. And we had our first conversations. And with every song that we wrote together, I'm so amazed by his talent, by his how he writes songs. And he brought in the second producers, Fabian Zimmermann. So they used to work together before,
Okay.
and he brought in this second person that I was not expecting somehow. And I was like, yeah, why a second person, you know? And then I heard the sound of Fabian, and these two guys, they have different styles. They have similarities, but they have clearly two different styles. And the melting pot of those two guys together with my songs, that's what makes Beyond Frequencies. And so, yes, I'm super happy. And yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. And then how do you,
That they are not on, they don't want to go on tour. So they are not,
oh,
otherwise I would take them along, but
well, that was my next question is how do you guys sound on tour and who's with
yeah,
you
yeah.
usually when you're on tour as a band?
Yeah, so so obviously I needed to find some musicians, like live musicians, to perform everything live. And we had some changes in the lineup. In the beginning, it was pretty stable. And then, funnily, when the pandemic was over and we were actually able to tour, then it fell apart. Why ever? Yeah, so I do work with different musicians, but always looking forward to having like a fixed crew. So I don't want to have a lot of changes actually. And at the moment, I am super happy, especially with the guitarist that we found for our latest festival gigs, which is Joel Walser, a super talented guitarist. And we approach the songs that we don't take like the studio productions and want to have it 100% one-on-one played live the same way, but we do live productions out of those songs. So there are some twists and changes that makes the songs live more appealing. Yeah.
Sounds good. And you already have some dates for 2025 on the books. Yeah.
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 Yeah. For my taste, too little.
Yes. Yes. Well, I imagine that they're gonna come soon.
I hope so.
Um,
I hope so. Yeah. So we have for autumn, we do have some dates, and actually still trying to get some tour together. So if there is any band out there who is listening who needs a good support, we are looking for some dates to play. Yeah. So
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about the new album that's coming out on February 20th. And like you had mentioned, it's called Everything I Am. And so tell me a little bit about what we can expect.
Well, for those who know the other two albums already, you can expect the same energy from Beyond Frequencies, but with a little bit more edge. So it is rougher than the first two albums, but it's still this hybrid that I put a lot of on. That it is a combination between rock with metal elements, but also with pop elements. So it's still this hybrid, still trying to build this bridge between pop music and metal. Um, it has rougher edges and also a little bit of new wave influences. And this has to do with that I listened a lot to Depeche Mode again when I was in the songwriting phase. And I also put those ideas to the producers and told them, oh, listen to these old songs from Depeche Mode. They have this vibe. Can we somehow get the same vibe in the songs? And actually in Feel, you can hear it pretty well that there are some Depeche Mode influences in it. Yeah.
And how many songs are on the album?
Well, not that many. 9 songs, but 9 really good ones.
9 really good songs. How many have we heard already? So is Feel one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And are there any others that we've already heard that have been released as singles?
Yes, you've heard on the EPI of the Storm. Actually, those songs will be on
Okay.
the album as well. And yeah, well, there will be this album coming out with its 9 songs. This has a lot to do with the way the music industry works these days, that you put out singles after single after single. And I can already announce that after the album, it's not finished for 2025. So
Oh,
some
good.
coming
So
up as well.
you'll have to come back and tell us what's going on once you're ready, once you move past this album. But it looks like you're full speed ahead, planning the next thing and the next thing after that.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Is there anything else that you would love for the audience at home? Because I imagine that we're going to get your fans watching, but we'll also have people who you're new to them. Is there something that you would love for them to know about you and your music?
Well, there is one thing about the music and also about the titles of the album. So the first one is Megalomania, and the second one is called Me, Megalomaniac. So, and also in the third album, which is called Everything I Am, everything revolves around big ideas, the megalomania. So, like the big thinkers are the first time you utter your biggest ideas that are not yet in reality, no one can see them. People think that you are crazy, that you lost your mind. So you're a megalomaniac, right? So, and all the lyrics and also in the third album revolves around this. So never be afraid to think big, talk big, see the biggest dreams. And then in the end, this is everything you are. So therefore the title, Everything I Am.
Oh,
So
amazing. Amazing. I love
yes.
that.
Yeah, and what else to know is it's a freaking good music. Listen to it if you haven't. And we are still trying to film a music video to every single song.
Oh,
So even before the album comes out, we do have a new video for Barrel of a Gun, which is a song that was on the EP already. So we will entertain you not only with music, but also with videos.
that's wonderful. And I have something I would like to share. I think that anybody who doesn't know your music should definitely check out Beyond Frequencies. I think you have, I was telling you before we started this interview, I really enjoy your lyrics because I think many people, you really get in because of the music, but then you attach yourself if there's either if the lyrics are great, which I really love your lyrics and your topics, but also if there's something emotionally there for you, right? You turn to lyrics when you're like, oh, I just heard something that's very familiar. But I really loved your music because I felt like I could enjoy the journey of lyrics and music at the same time instead of really just being pulled into music and sometimes singing wrong lyrics for decades at a time because because you really love the song and you thought you were singing it right, and then one day you look up the lyrics and you're like, I've been singing this like horribly wrong for a really long time.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, but I was really happy because I was listening to your music and then I found like under some of the videos, like or probably all of them, you actually have the lyrics there. And I was like, I actually, I actually understood the correct lyrics, which is amazing. But I do think that the lyrics are such something that is showcased and something that can be appreciated. So I would definitely encourage everybody at home to listen to the albums, the EP, and obviously the album that's coming out. Very cool titles as well: Burning Bridges, Cast a Spell, Dark and Stormy, Vicarious Game, Favorite Mistake,
That's the
Energy
common
Inside.
one.
But
And
yeah,
here's
really
the
great.
more metal one, yeah. So, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's also like there is like this balance between pop music, rock music, and metal music. And I really appreciate that the titles you just told us are out of all the three genres, so not only in one direction.
Yes, and I do tend to lean a little bit more metal, but I think they're great songs. I think they're great music, so I definitely encourage everybody at home to listen to the music, watch the videos. If you want to know the lyrics, you'll be able to hear them clearly, but they're also written under the videos. But also to follow you on Instagram, they can follow you, Blazy Flash. They
Yeah.
can follow Beyond Frequencies, and then you also have a Facebook.
Yeah, so you can find us everywhere.
Yeah,
So typically Instagram, Facebook,
and
TikTok,
YouTube
yes, as
channel.
well. And actually, we set the most price on YouTube. So, and that's also the reason why we have all these music videos. So please follow us on YouTube as well.
Definitely. And I'll list everything below this video so you'll be able to easily find it as well. So thank you so much for joining me. And I definitely want to have you back on again. I feel like you have so much going on that there'll be plenty to talk about in the future, in the near future.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. And of course, I will be back pleasantly.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Blazy Flash. Make sure that you're subscribed to Melnet TV and you follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I'll see you again with another interview soon. Take care.